Hello, good afternoon, everybody. A very warm welcome to today's webinar. And without further ado, I am certain that we will be starting in the next minute or two. Our guest speaker is already here in the person of Mr. Anthony Wauche. Welcome on board. I will be doing a short introduction of Mr. Tony very shortly. My name is Kunle Ajagbe, and my job this afternoon is to serve like a moderator of today's proceedings. So we will be starting any moment from now. We have on board today, as part of the continuation of the Law Office Management Training Series, an initiative of the Nigerian Bar Association Institute of Continuing Legal Education. And in the previous weeks, we've had speakers to talk to us on various aspects of law office management. Today, Mr. Tony Wauche, who is an acknowledged human resource lawyer and expert, will be talking to us about what works and what doesn't work. He will be giving more context to that in the course of his presentation to us, and a lot has happened in the last 2 years or thereabout that has altered the scope of what was acceptable and what is evolving and changing. And those are the kinds of insights that Tony will be sharing with us. But let me just say a brief word or two about his person and his background. Tony is the managing partner and heads the business advisory practice team of Lawcrest LLP, a leading commercial law firm in Lagos. Tony was previously the company secretary and general counsel of a merchant bank in Lagos. And he's also acted on various transactions, including M&A, corporate insolvency, regulatory compliance, construction, real estate, and business recovery. He's a member of the Business Recovery and Insolvency Practitioners Association of Nigeria, BRIPAN. Please join me in giving a virtual welcome to our speaker for today, Mr. Tony Wauche. Tony, you are very much welcomed, and the scene is handed over to you.
Thank you, Kunle. Let me first of all thank the chairman of the Governing Council and the members of the board of the ICLE for the interesting series that I'm honored to be a part of. I've followed it, and I think it's been instructive for everybody who's participated. And I think what you guys are doing are very instructive, particularly at this period of legal practice in Nigeria. But without further ado, I'll share my paper and go into the crux of what I intend to discuss with us today. And that's basically on business structures, what works, what doesn't work. So if you'll permit me, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Anthony, just as you're about to start, we have quite a large audience and it's rapidly growing. What I would encourage our audience to do is to drop their questions, if any, in the Q&A portal, so that at the appropriate time, we would have reference to that.
Thanks.
Yes, you can proceed.
Thank you. I hope you can see my screen. Okay, so good afternoon once again, my fellow colleagues. It's my pleasure to be presenting this subject today, law practice, business structures. What works, what doesn't? And obviously, when I was asked to speak about this topic, the obvious thing to do was to go and check what the definition of business and structure would be. And so the Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary, the new 8th edition, defines business, first of all, as the activity of making, buying, selling, or supplying goods or services for money. The same source also defines structure as to arrange or organize something into a system or pattern. The state of being well organized or planned with all the parts linked together, a careful plan. So I decided to harmonize both definitions. So we could have an underpinning definition of what business structure is. And for me, it would be the organization or arrangement in terms of legal services, that is, the organization or arrangement of the legal services that a lawyer or law firm supplies into a careful system or pattern, or the supply of legal services by a lawyer or law firm in an organized system. That's just giving us some background. And I believe that drawing up a system, pattern, or plan requires critical thinking in any endeavor or business, including the business of law, in order to determine the pathway to achieving the business purpose. So, I mean, for me, we must be deliberate, we must think about it. And I think it comes to the crux of why we have a lot of issues when we talk about law practice as a business, at least speaking from my experience. Now, why have a business structure or structures? For me, it's essentially as a system or systems to actualize your business plan on the day-to-day basis and ultimately achieve your business purpose or objective. So your structure is a system or platform by which you achieve your business plans on a day-to-day basis. Whether your business is small,
I have to interrupt that, and please forgive me, but it appears that we are unable to see your screen. And could you check from your end, please? Because I've gotten loads of messages to that effect.
Is that for everybody?
I think so.
Okay, sorry, let me check that again. Okay, hold on. Can you see it now?
No.
Okay, hold on. Let me see. Any lockdown?
No, I'm afraid not.
Okay, let me see what I can do about that. Any luck now?
Yes. Okay, we can see your screen now.
My apologies for that hitch. It's part of what I've even discussed today. So it's all well that we experienced it. But like I said, why have a business structure or structures? And essentially as a system or systems to actualize your business plan on a day-to-day basis and ultimately achieve your business purpose or objective. I mean, for anybody who set up a business, the presupposition is that you had a purpose for which you set up that business. And a business structure itself must be underpinned by a business plan. And the business plan itself by a business purpose. And you can see the illustration here. So first of all, in the hierarchy, if you want to set up a practice, which for all intents and purposes is a business, you ought to have a business purpose. or objective. And once you already have that purpose objective, you ought to have a business plan. And when you have a business plan, you will need business structures with which to implement those plans on a day-to-day basis in order to achieve your business purpose or objective. Now, business purpose, so many definitions about it. But generally, for me, it means the reason for which you established the business or what you intend to attain by establishing the business. And the purpose for establishing a business varies from one entrepreneur or group of entrepreneurs to another. I mean, I've heard so many people say for so many reasons. For some people, it's simply for economic purposes. Some people, it's aspirational. Some people, it's to give value to society. You wake up and you say, you want to be a human rights defender. You want to ensure that justice at all times is served and served equally to all citizens. But Dr. Emmanuel Imebore, in his book, Business Intelligence, Entrepreneurship Development and Business Building Techniques, postulates that every true business must have two main purposes. The first is to create value for its loyal customers by meeting their needs. And we must continue to remember that in the context in which I use business, it must include your law practice. So for him, irrespective of whatever purpose you might have, these are the two main purposes every business must have. One, to create value for your loyal customers. In our case, we call them clients, by meeting their needs. And two, to create value for its owners by meeting the needs that necessitate the establishment of the business. So in meeting the needs that necessitate the purpose, you create value for its owners. But I think today it goes beyond the owners. It goes to all the stakeholders, which includes the employees and all the other people through the whole value chain. And it says, and that the purpose of business can best be comprehended by an understanding of 7 important components of a typical business whose interplay tend to determine the success of any business. He calls them the 7 Ps that determine business power: product, promotion, people, place, process, price, and profit. I will not go into them in details, but I decided to mention them here because in putting my thoughts together for this paper, I found out that incidentally, from my own experience, these same issues that he raised actually come to play in the business of law, at least as I have seen them. So for me, it reinforces the fact that we are indeed running businesses. It might sound like a cliche, but we are indeed running businesses, and we need to be conscious of it in all that we do. Now, when we talk about law practice structures, in Nigeria, as we know them, we have essentially 4. I mean, anybody who practices in Nigeria knows them. It's not anything new I'm saying. We have the sole practitioner, and this is essentially where a legal practitioner practices in his or her name and alone, but may have support staff. And for example, I'm Anthony Woche. I could practice simply as Anthony Woche once I'm licensed, and I'll be issued my checks for my payment as Anthony Woche, and I will issue opinions in my personal name. You could operate as a sole proprietorship. In this case, you'll be registered as a business name at the Corporate Affairs Commission, which is the equivalent of the company registry anywhere else, with just one lawyer as the proprietor or the owner of the business, even though he or she may or may not employ other lawyers and support staff. You also have the associateship, and this is essentially where you have 2 or more lawyers practicing either out of the same space, usually out of the same space, sharing common facilities, but different law firms and clients. So your Anthony Woche and Co., your John Hopkins and Co., operating out of 4 Igboshere Road, and you use common services, you have the same secretary, you have the same dispatch guy, you pay one rent, and essentially sharing your infrastructure. Usually this is to share the burden of cost. And then you have the partnership. I mean, the partnership even dates back to the partnership law of 1890, But even under CAMA 2020, partnership may be registered as a limited liability partnership, commonly called the LLP, or a limited partnership. And an LLP under CAMA 2020 is a body corporate with separate legal personality, which is interesting under our own legal system. An LP, on the other hand, is a partnership with one or more general partners whose liability is unlimited, and other partners who are limited partners and whose liabilities are limited. So in the LP, you have the ones with unlimited liabilities and the partners whose liabilities are limited. And the limited partners in an LP do not take part in the management of the business, and an LP cannot consist of more than 20 persons. We must realize that an LP under that context does not apply to only law firms, but partnerships in general. Now, what would be the underlying considerations in determining the type of law firm structure you would want to operate? You're a lawyer today, whether you're a new wig, whether you're an established, you're a not so young lawyer who has worked under another firm and wants to set up your own law firm, or you're an in-house counsel who has decided today that you want to go into legal practice. So what are the considerations in determining the type of law firm structure? And I've thought of a few. For the sole practitioner and the sole proprietorship, to me, they kind of go hand in hand in terms of the kind of considerations you'll be thinking about. The first is that it is usually if you're not a great people person or team player. You're probably not too trusting, but you're generally somebody who likes to do things on your own. Secondly, you'll be somebody who intends to work at your own pace. It means that you don't want anybody putting pressure on you. You don't want any targets coming from third parties, but you want to work at your own pace when you're ready to do any task and how you want to do it. 3, you desire quick, it could be also because you desire quick decision making. You don't want to consult others. You want to take decisions on the go and as you deem fit. It could also be that you're not looking for a large full service practice. Look, everybody has their own desires. And like I said, we all have our purposes and objectives. You can make up your, I've worked with somebody before who said, look, his own aspiration is to have a law firm, a twin duplex, the way some of the big names had in those days. He has his law practice in one wing, he has his house in the other wing. He doesn't need any stress. When he feels like he goes home to go and sleep. When he feels like going to work, he goes next door to work. Also, you have no intention of the business outliving you. Usually that could also be a reason. You're not one of those who's saying, I want to build an institution. I want the law firm to outlive me. It's possibly that you're thinking of running it by yourself. And if your children also study law, possibly handing it over to them one day. And importantly, you possibly also don't want to be accountable to anyone, because if you're in a partnership, the truth is that you're all accountable to each other. The partners are accountable to their fellow partners, and likewise, it actually comes with a lot of accountability, and I think it comes with checks and balances and with shared responsibilities. Now, for the associateship, in addition to the considerations above, I think the core reason, like I've discussed earlier on, is for practicing under this arrangement is to share costs of running your practice, the rent, secretary, other non-fee earning personnel. And in practice, actually, a lot of what are called partnerships in the legal profession are not partnerships in the strict sense, but associateships involving an arrangement where several practitioners share facilities. So I see people who say, oh, my partner, and yet they're running 2 different practices. But they call themselves partners because you see them often together. They're in the same building in one particular place. They share facilities and they hold themselves out as partners, but in the strict sense, they are not. They are not accountable to each other. They don't earn fees from the same work. They have different clients. They could from time to time consult one another or get ideas from themselves, but in the strict sense, they are not partners. Now, consultations for partnerships. one, usually you would intend to build a large practice with a large customer base, leveraging on the expertise and contacts of the partners. I'm in a partnership, for example. I worked in-house. I was the general counsel of the bank. My area was banking finance. I've done employment because I headed employment. But I needed people who would do litigation, people who do issues like infrastructure, public-private partnership, finance, people who do oil and gas. And that's what you can leverage on as a partnership. So if you intend to have a large practice, you're likely to go for a partnership. If you intend to build an institution that will outlive the founders, you're also likely to go for a partnership, because under that kind of situation, you encourage the associates to grow into partners. Like I've said somewhere else further down, for me, the test of a partnership, of a real partnership, is if you can show me ultimately how many associates, if an associate or associates in your organization grow through the ranks to become partners, and ultimately even equity partners. You would also want to go into a partnership for the purposes of risk sharing. In any business, just as there are rewards, there are risks. And you might want to share the burden of the risks with others. 4, you might require additional capital to establish your practice. Sometimes it's for that purpose. You've woken up and you've looked at it, this is where I want to go. I do not have the capital, but if I bring in 1 or 2 other people, we can pull resources together and establish the kind of business that I think I want to operate or run. 5th is that you want the required manpower to handle certain type of work. And that's true. I mean, the truth is that that's what it offers you. You have different competencies, different specialization. So more often than not, you will have less work escape you. You don't come into situations where people say, oh, you guys don't have the expertise in-house to carry out this kind of work. And like I said, which is what I think a lot of people in sole proprietorship and the sole practice would not want. If you want accountability, you'd go into a partnership. For some people, it's simply a way of putting themselves on their toes, because at the end of the day, you're different people with different expertise. And I can tell you something about a partnership. Even if you don't want to come to work, you know your partners would ask where you are. You know, because your partners are expecting you to be able to pull in something or to add some kind of value to the organization day to day. So if you're big on accountability, you'd want to go for a partnership. Now, speaking about the business plan, like I said earlier on, you would have a business purpose, but any serious business person, whether it's law, whether it's accounting, whether you're setting up a restaurant, you ought to have a business plan. You ought to have a business plan. I discuss a lot of times with lawyers, and I find out that we kind of think that that is only for those who regularly go to financial institutions and ask for funding. We advise people on financial transactions and see in the course of advising them that business plans form part of the documentation they require. But we on our own don't come up with business plans. And for me, once you've identified your purpose objective, the next logical step should be to develop a business plan to actualize your purpose. It need not be written like a professional business plan. And it should show that you have given serious consideration to all the issues required to successfully start and manage the business and ultimately achieve your desired objectives for establishing it. And I will say something here. A lot of times I get requests for advice from lawyers too, who tell me, Tony, you were in out before you established your business years ago, you have partners. I want to establish, give me an idea about how I can go about it. And I always say, go and come up with a business plan, let's discuss later. Truthfully, 9 out of 10, the people never come back with a business plan. They keep coming back, Tony, how do you go about it? But how do they do it? To use common parlance. But I keep saying, no matter what it is you want to do in life, even if you're trying to go to school, trying to start a business, trying to start a family, the best thing to do is to have a plan. So come up with a business plan in your own words, in your own language. I tell anybody who asks me, whether it's for law, for anything you want to do in life, but you must sit down and think about, give serious consideration to all the issues required to successfully start and manage the, one thing is to start, another thing is to manage the business and ultimately achieve your desired objectives for establishing it. So what are the elements of a business plan in my own thinking for a sole practitioner or sole proprietor? The first should be your knowledge base and intended areas of specialization. So your business plan should be, when you sit down, you're talking about your business for establishing your practice. What is your knowledge base and your intended areas of specialization? Is it company law? Is it strictly litigation? That should be your business plan. Next is your office space and infrastructure required to start the business. That you need to think about in line with your objective and in line with the kind of practice you intend to establish. Thirdly, what's your capital and cash flow required to start and run the business for the first 6 months to 1 year? So you need capital in the first time to start and to finance all that your infrastructure. And you also need cash flow to run for the next 6 months to 1 year, knowing that you might not have work in the immediate to sustain you as you would like to. Fourth, what are your sources of capital? Are they your own funds? Are they loans? Are they family people? I mean, I quit from a bank, resigned when I was general counsel at 24. I did that work for about 5-6 years. Quit one, woke up, had not even married, went to set up an office. And I recall at that time, I had to ask my younger brother I'd done my own business plan, and I took then from 300,000 naira to add to my own capital to rent an office somewhere on Makati Street, a building called Ajebo House. But I had to think about it and think about, apart from the capital, how do I sustain myself for the next few months? You need to think about your initial clientele and prospects. Do you have clientele that you're actually starting out with? Are there people who are going to sign you down now if you quit to set up your business? Then who are the prospects? You also need to think of your personnel requirements. For a sole proprietor, front desk officer who doubles as a secretary and executive assistant, possibly. But I mean, you need to put them within your budget. You need to think about your projected profit or loss and key deliverables, short and medium term. I am a bit astonished when I hear lawyers, and I talk from time to time. I remember once I came out from church on a Sunday, and somebody asked me, I didn't see the previous week, and I said, yes, I went for my office retreat. I said, what do you guys discuss your office? I said, so everything now, we do a budget, we discuss our budget, we discuss our projections for this year. He said, what what's the thing about profit or loss or projections? You just chase work now. If anybody gives you money, you make it now. I've been doing for years, I've made so much money, I've not done projections. But I don't see why you run a business. You would not want to do projections and think about what your projected profit is. Who are your clients? What did you earn from this client? What are my likely projections this year? And so you can plan along the line. You must also, in your business plan, think about your business development strategy. That's essential. How do you market your service and win work? I expect that's one of the reasons why you set up that business, because you expect to win work. So, like they always say, start from the known to the unknown. I think one thing we don't do as lawyers is that we don't build network outside this profession. I'll be frank. I think too many lawyers we are still built in the old notion, we're the noble profession. We go for dinners, we do law events, we're always on the, everything is around that. We have no networks outside this profession. And I think, and invariably, the truth is that the people who are going to give us work are not the lawyers. There are people who are out there. So you must have a business development strategy, and that's part of it sometimes. I tell people that if your network is only around lawyers all the time, your event for the week, law dinner on Tuesday, law week on Wednesday, this guy is launching one law thing on Thursday, that's all you do. Any other social activity, nobody finds you there. Where you can get opportunities, where the business leaders and the people who do the businesses that have the legal issues you need to resolve, then you obviously do not have a good strategy for business development. Now, so what are the elements of a business plan for a partnership? You must think of the size. Do you want to be a large, small, or mid-sized partnership? How many partners? Do you want 2 partners? 4? What type of partners? That's essential. But typically, there should be partners who bring different expertise, skills, and different. I was just talking about networks. So the truth is that what's really the essence of a partnership if all of you are going to be doing only oil and gas? You guys are 5 partners, all of you are doing litigation. So you must typically think about complementing yourselves, having expertise, skills, and different networks. The truth is, we're in a partnership where this week one of my partners tells me, oh, my former classmate, or somebody in something I belong to was discussing something with me. They build their networks and we all benefit from it. The knowledge base of the partners, you must think of, I spoke about that even for sole proprietors, but for a partnership, it's important. And the practice areas they intend to structure their firm around. Of course, office space infrastructure. And when I talk about infrastructure, I put some of them here. Internet, we all know that: website, computer, printer, phone, utilities, insurance, practicing fees, case management and accounting software, books and legal research tools. Essential for a business plan. You need to be as detailed as you can about it, because at the end of the day, you'll find out that this could determine your cash flow position and whether you're liquid as a business or not. And it enables you plan. Then capital and cash flow still comes in here. You must always think short and long term. Capital to start, cash flow to continue to run. You must talk about the capital contribution and profit distribution ratio, but usually all these elements are contained in your partnership deeds. And you know, under the law, if you don't have a partnership agreement, it will be deemed that you're sharing them equally, your profits or loss. Your personnel requirements, projected profit or loss, key deliverables. You guys must sit down as partners and talk about it. You as a partner, what do you think your network is? What are the likely clients you can bring? You as a partner, what's your network? What likely clients can you bring? Responsibilities of partners and management. In a partnership, it's important to share roles and responsibilities and also discuss the other roles that other members of management would play. And it's important to note that existing practices, if you did not start off with a business plan, it is never too late to still have one today. So existing practices can actually develop business plans, because business plans, business strategization continues on a day-to-day basis and it's evolving. So to the crux of what we're discussing today, and I started it off with what I call the essentials of a structured law practice. So you've identified your business purpose, you have come up with a business plan, detailed business plan, not a perfunctory one. The other day, I think I went back and I picked up what I found as a business plan I did in 1999, November, before I left my bank. I saw it in my wardrobe. I had 2 things actually, business plan, and I think one prayer thing I did, about 5 points I wanted from, what's some funny thing there? But I brought it out. I did that in my own wardrobe. Maybe I had the privilege of having worked in a bank. But the next obvious step will be to develop your structures to efficiently execute the plans in order to achieve your business purpose. So business structures, right? To execute your business plans and ultimately achieve your business purpose. So what works? Policies and procedures. It might sound cliche, but these should be documented, especially in accordance with the peculiar needs of your business and best practices in your industry. These include policies relating to recruitment, disciplinary and grievance procedures, ICT usage, attendance, engagement, terms, billing and invoicing, service delivery, and even your font size of your letters and manner of signing off documents. Any serious business for me, if you want to work today, whether we like it or not, you must think about the future of legal practice. Every day, whether I sit down and I wonder sometimes, really in 5 or 10 years, would my kind of lawyer still be relevant? I watch the young lawyers today who are very tech savvy walk up to me and say, sir, I appreciate all you've done. You've been a fantastic boss, but I want to go and set up my own IT company. So really, where are we going as a legal practice? If you're a business owner, if you're not thinking about this, then I think you are tethering, on what I can't put words to. But you must have a system in place that ensures a constant review of where the legal industry is going and how your business can adapt your current structures to be aligned with where the profession is going, and to be innovators in that regard, not only to see where it's going, but to ensure that you're part of those actually charting the course as innovators, charting the course. Because what eventually happens is that you're in the front of the pecking order, and all the rest are coming behind you. This could involve setting up a small committee of personnel with the required skill set and inclination for innovation, or engaging consultants who can provide you advice in this direction from time to time if you can afford it. And truthfully, you will notice that a lot of the big commercial firms always get consultants to go through their systems and processes and advise them on what they think they can do right and where the future of the practice is going. Not everybody can afford it, but I think even in your own little way, you can sit down and think about it. It could also involve your internal team working with external consultants, as I just discussed. The big elephant in the room, technology. It is increasingly becoming obvious that forward-looking practices must apply technology as a catalyst for its service offerings, and must establish a system or systems that cascade the use of technology as much as possible from the top to the bottom. The issue about technology is that if you have somebody along that chain, from the most senior people to the bottom, who is not receptive of technology, it tends to affect your ability to deliver service, particularly if the person has a say in it. Thomson Reuters, in an article titled "Technology in Law is the New Norm," that article was dated August 3rd, 2021, recommends 4 steps on how to start incorporating new technology in your firm. Namely, assess your need. That's obvious. Assess what are your needs in terms of technology. Of course, looking at your budget. Research legal solutions. Before you go and take a legal solution or which is technologically based, research it. Plan for your investing and setting up, and for ensure people and processes can adapt. And that goes in line with what I was saying, that everybody through the system, in that system, must be receptive of technology. Business development, you can never say it enough. Lawyers, like any other entrepreneur, must constantly think of ways to market their services and win work. In this regard, it is obvious that a forward-thinking law practice must develop systems that encourage and reward business development, not only in terms of work won, but innovative marketing ideas and strategies. So business development, like I always tell people, everybody's not made up of the same, made in the same mold. You might not be the kind of person who always wins work, but you can sit down here and walk up to me and tell me, these are areas I think we need to look at that we're not looking at. There are people who tell me sometimes in the office, can you make out time to accompany me to a particular place or to a client or a meeting, or I'm having a party somewhere, if you can just show up. I'm sure if you talk to this person for 5 minutes, we might be able to learn this. So we must think about business development in that mode. People, every effectively structured law practice, not being a sole practitioner, has deliberately built a culture that the practice has come to be known for. And it is important that everyone recruited is able to fit into that culture with a view to delivering on the purpose of establishing the business. That is very important because every well-structured business, like I said, has built a culture. And the truth is that if you look around, you will always know it. If you go to MTN, you see that MTN has a culture. Let's be factual. You go to several, and your culture might be good, your culture might be bad. I'm honest, some organizations have bad cultures. But the truth is that in recruiting, you want to be sure that whoever you're bringing is a fit for your culture. This applies to fee earners and non-fee earners. And you must also have in place an organizational chart or organogram that clearly defines the practice teams and other departments, reporting lines and roles of the various people in that organogram. That is essential. Reporting lines must be clear, roles must be clear, if you want a structured organization that works. So you must have an organogram. Some people run a pyramid structure, some run a flat structure. Even for a 3-man firm, you must have an organogram and some form of structure. And the practice should also have clear deliverables for teams as well as lawyers and other staff, as well as a rewards and incentive system. Every firm with a structure has deliberately, like I said, built a culture that the firm has come to be known for, and you want everybody to fit into it. You also need to deliberately employ a right mix, in my opinion. In my opinion, over the years, I've found out that you can't have all innovators, you can't have all grinders, you can't have all people persons, but you must have all of them. When you bring the mix, they must have some common denominators they must have are a good knowledge of the law, good writing skills, competence, and they must be tech savvy with the right attitude. These are non-negotiable in my opinion. So like I said, you can't have all grinders, those who sit down, they're working in the office 24 hours a day to ensure you deliver. You can't have only good people persons, but you must have competent, tech-savvy people with the right attitude. Increasingly, I'm sure, particularly young people will know this, firms are conducting psychometric tests to assess the verbal reasoning capacities of lawyers. It is also important to start early to recruit lawyers with leadership attributes who will eventually take over the management of the firms as the older partners retire. And this is particularly so for those who run partnerships. You will find out that you need to start, in looking at people you're taking now, you must be looking 10, 15 years ahead of time, whether those are people who can sit on your chair and run an organization. Like I said earlier on, in my opinion, the test as to whether a partnership was established with the purpose of building an institution that will be distinct from and outlive its founding partners is whether it has had anyone grow within the system to become a partner, and more especially an equity partner. Finance for a structure to work. I don't need to say too much about that, but finance and financial planning are extremely important in the structure of any business, including law practice. Lawyers seem to have a different opinion about this or different attitude. Why? I do not know. A law practice, like I say here, whether in the form of a sole proprietor or partnership, should have policies and procedures relating to finance, including amortization. And when you talk about these terms with lawyers, a lot of times they seem lost. Amortization, an accounting policy, your accounting year, distribution of, that's profits and reserves. I mean, in any business, it's also wise to have reserves. When you finish distributing and doing your 13th month and all the other things you've done at the end of December, how do you run January when things are slow? Reserve, expenditure approvals, and retirement of advances, and should entail the regular reviews of their financial performance and cash flow position stroke projections by the owners, managers of the firm. So this is very essential. I'll give you an example of why things like this are important. We're all here in 2020 where out of the blues we had COVID-19. And there was so much uncertainty in the air. Even as a business owner, we didn't know where we're heading. And for me, I think nothing became more instructive about the need for financial planning than our ability to have weathered that period without having to deduct salaries, reduce pay, or any of the sort, with people being locked at home for the initial 3 months. And for me, the biggest thing was even the gratitude that the employees and everybody showed that we kept the ship flying for that period. But it shows that financial planning for any organization is important. How do you structure your cash flow? What do you need to run for the next 2-3 months? How do you plan with it? How do you plan for it? It is important for any business. So finance and financial planning, if you're talking about structure that works, you must have that system in place. Typically, that firm should have a budget and financial projections and track its performance against these financial projections. Periodically, whether you're a one-man firm, whether you're a sole proprietor of different people, whether you're partners, you must have financial projections and periodically track it. We sit down in this firm and we say, these are projections for the first quarter of this year, for the first month. These are anticipated profits. This is what we have. Our expenditure we thought we will spend. How much is the cost on each task we do? But it's important that you do this if you're serious about having a structure that works. An owner of a firm should be able to understand a basic management report or auditor's report and know the key indices he or she should be looking out for. And what are some of these indices? You can't tell me you run a law practice today and you don't know the cycle for collecting your money from certain clients. And you don't know that you need to plan your finances along that line. You know, there's a particular client you have who gives you probably 30% of your work. And they usually pay you anything between 60 and 90 days. That's their structure. And you're running an expenditure system month to month that does not take that into cognizance. Obviously, you're not running a structure that will work. So that's important. So you should have a budget and track your financial performance. And you should be able to understand basic management reports or auditor's reports. Where we need help along this line, we should train ourselves and get the knowledge. It is very critical and important. Every business owner does that, and lawyers should. I mean, I sit down with doctors and I see them, if you've ever advised a doctor on an issue, maybe they're in court over one thing or the other, you see that they sit down and they do, while the doctors do their documentation and their financing properly, from their billing to everything down the line. Why are we different as lawyers? A doctor that has only one or two junior lawyers and a nurse and one front desk officer still has proper finance and accounting records, still keeps track of his performance. I don't know why lawyers don't, but I think it's something we need to critically take a look at. Your billing and fee structure, important for a practice that works. In relation to the legal profession, it has been said that an efficient billing system is one in which the billable revenue of associates cover the following. So they said typically it should be 1/3 on their compensation salaries, 1/3 on overheads, and 1/3 goes to profit. So, well, we know that today we are supposed to have a law with a scale on fees, but truthfully, proper pricing of services is important, and a typically good one should actually take note of those indices are put above. And I would encourage us to see if our present billing structures meet the above. Also important, if you want to, for a system that work, you should periodically assess your risks and threats as a business. This should be done per practice team and even for your non-fee earning departments. You should be able to sit down and say, what are my risks to this business? Sometimes your risk to your business is the fact that you're the only person doing the work as a lawyer. If you fall sick, that your file hangs there, nobody does it. If anything happens, you're handling a matter for a client. Your flight, I was supposed to have left Abuja yesterday evening to Lagos. 5 hours waiting, bad weather, blah, blah, I couldn't come. If I had a transaction between Lagos or a meeting with somebody, it wouldn't happen. I actually had one today I couldn't make that one with a financial institution, but somebody from my office went. Those are all the issues one must critically look at. Administration. This is extremely key to the efficient operation of any organization. While too much emphasis may not be laid on the title you give the person responsible for ensuring the effective and efficient administration of the business, it is essential that the person who holds the position understands the objective of the business. That's really what's important, and develops policies and procedures that enable the fee earners carry out their fee earning activities with little or no impediment. And what does this entail? It means that the owners of the business must sit with this person from time to time for the person to get what is in your own head and apply with their own expertise and experience policies and procedures that they think would help you actualize your objective. For smaller firms, this function can be merged with the finance role. Not everybody can afford to have a finance department, full-fledged admin department, but ensure that those functions are handled and considered. What doesn't work? Well, I've given some thought to this. And I think one thing that doesn't work is that there's a tendency for us to just simply cut and paste in terms of policies from other organizations. You cut and paste policies that do not take cognizance of the peculiar objectives and structure of your business on the industry in which you operate, or even the objective for which your own business was set up, vis-a-vis the objective for which the other one was set up. So a lot of people just sit down and I saw some people, I told you, can I have your personnel policy? And sometimes I said, we have some are e-copies, some are soft, but what works for me might not work for you. So it's not a matter of cutting and pasting, but you must see what works for you in terms of policies. What doesn't also work is refusal to accept or adopt to technology in total ignorance of the needs of your clients or industry. I hear it so often say, well, you say, me, when it comes to technology, I'm not part of it. I still do my things manually. I dictate. It is not about you. It is about your clients. It's about your customers.
Yeah. Tony, please, we have to be rounding up.
In 5 minutes, I'll be done. It's not about you.
Okay,
it's
perfect.
It's not about you. It's about your customer. So you must be conscious of the fact that you could be the problem. And so technology is important. So I don't like when lawyers say, oh, I'm not, when it comes to technology, I'm not part of it. I will never accept or I'll never adapt, because it's not about you. It's about the market, it's about your clients, it's about those who will keep you in business. A lot of people think that marketing and having visibility is all it takes. But it's important that you match it by the quality of your work, because the undoing of many lawyers and law firms is that they have not been able to match what their visibility and the noise they make around themselves with the quality of the service that they offer in the market. And what that does to you is that the day you put yourself out there and your work does not speak for you, the circumstances can be quite catastrophic. Then we must be careful when we talk about incentivizing staff, not to sacrifice teamwork or the corporate goal on the altar of incentivization. I say I'm one for incentivization and rewards, but we must remember ultimately that there is a corporate goal. The danger in incentivization sometimes is that people now pay emphasis on what they think they will get incentives for only, rather than the corporate goal. So you need to be careful that teamwork and your corporate goal is not sacrificed on the altar of incentivization. You should not undertake recruitment or training without a needs assessment. Undertaking recruitment or training should be based on a needs assessment. What really does the organization need? What skill set? What number of people? Is it that you actually have work you're unable to do because you don't have the required personnel, or you just want to add another person to make your firm look big? Being a jack of all trades, particularly when you're a small firm, you need not practice in every area of law, especially areas you're not a master in. A master of an area of law will be sought after by even the major players in an industry in which you have not made an inroad. And I'll give a typical example, using ourselves. In the early days, we were struggling to work for a lot of the clients we work for today. And people would say that, oh, I'm in the oil industry. But we took time to actually go and specialize in employment. We went back, did our homework, we got the required manpower and infrastructure and faced that. And truthfully, most of the major players in all these industries started looking, we started having a looking from them in that regard. And along the line, we started doing other work. We ended up doing litigation. They found out we could do finance. But if you're a small firm, that's, for me, that's always the easiest thing. Don't sit down and be struggling with the bigger firms to do all the works. We know in this industry, there's somebody I won't call his name. Everybody knows that. He's a very big player in IP. I don't think his firm, at that time when everybody knew, was not that big. But the truth is that anybody in any industry who had an IP issue will still call him, even if you have the other big firms. So don't be a master of every area of law, particularly if you're small. And never mingle your funds with that of the business, even if you're a sole practitioner. Even when I left my bank and I started working with my secretary. I paid myself a salary. I've said this story so many times. And she held the funds. I'll pay myself at the end of the month and we'll plan the business. Professionally, you're not even supposed to do that, but critically, even for the sake of your business, that should be left. And in conclusion, it is of utmost importance to the maintenance of a healthy structure that every law firm regularly reviews its structures set up around these areas to constantly ensure that they remain fit for purpose. Constant review important. What was good today might not be good tomorrow. I'm neither of the school that thinks that you can copy what others do or be distinct by being original. I believe you can copy what has worked for others, but implement it with some innovation that is unique to you. I'll tell you the truth. All the time I look at what my competitors do, others might not say that, but I'll tell you the truth. I take time to do it. And I think about how I can actually adopt them in a way that's unique to the Lawcrest LLP. I hope what I've shared with you works for you in line with what we have asked today, what works and what doesn't. Thank you very much. And Kunle, over to you.
Thank you so very much, Tony. Thank you very, very much. It has been a very insightful experience picking up all these wonderful nuggets from you. And to go straight into the next item, which is the Q&A, we have quite a large number of our colleagues on board this webinar, but I'm afraid that we haven't had as many questions as we should. So please, I would like to encourage everybody again, once again, that the Q&A portal is still open. But having said that, I did notice one or two questions, and one of them was to the effect that, is it possible to have lawyers practice with non-lawyers, maybe chartered accountants and the rest of them like that? And with all due respect, as things stand with the LPA and the RPC, the straightforward answer is in the negative. It is not permitted under our rules, under our governing statute. That much is easy to say, though there is wisdom increasingly, given the sophistication of the legal markets now. There's wisdom in tapping into the insights of other professionals. And I'm sure, as Tony will know, there are ways in which some firms have been able to access such insights. But while we still wait for more questions from our colleagues, perhaps I can set the ball rolling by throwing some initial questions at Tony, and hopefully this will, don't worry, Tony, they won't be too difficult questions, the way you are smiling at me. So my first question is a point from what you earlier on said. What do you think makes it difficult for lawyers to have their own business plan? I think the merits of having a business plan, you have very brilliantly laid it out. There's not much that can be said against having a business plan. But regardless, what I pick from you is that lawyers are still struggling with internalizing it and putting pen to paper or putting finger to the desktop now, or keyboard as it were. So what exactly is the problem in your view? Then secondly, you've spoken about legal strategy and so on, big nice words, but in a few short sentences, what exactly is legal strategy? Why do I need it? Is it even for me as a law firm or as a lawyer? I mean, I want to litigate. I want to sue that individual or that company. Where is the place of legal strategy in all of that? So, like I said, in a few short sentences, perhaps you can help. Then last but not the least of my questions, or hopefully my initial question, is why does any of this that you are talking about, why does it really matter? How does it affect the bottom line? How does it affect the bottom line?
Thank you, Kule.
Yes.
If you ask me the problem with lawyers and why we don't come up with business plan, I think it's cultural. A lot of things we do in this practice today is cultural. And I was somewhere yesterday. Incidentally, for those who know, I also chair the remuneration committee of the NBI. We've been talking about issues on this. And a lot of things for us in this profession is actually cultural. I think the issue with the legal practice in Nigeria is that, I mean, we started under the colonial administration. We had very few lawyers in the early days. And there was this notion that it was the noble profession. We sat down, few lawyers were around, they earned money. They really had no need to sit down and conceptualize a business plan. Lawyers were needed. Subsequently, when they had the industrialization decree, a lot of lawyers benefited from systems like that. But things have changed, whether you like it or not. So lawyers have never, lawyers, if you look at the profession, I tell you there are two things. One, we are very opaque. Whether we like it or not, we're very opaque. This is one profession where it's difficult for you to get statistics and indices as a profession. Google today, as we sit here, about the fees that the top law firms abroad and in the UK, you will see it will be online. In Nigeria, if you can tell me in Nigeria, I'll probably do a wager for 100K with you. And so I think we have a cultural issue in this country, and that opaqueness is part of it. We don't share information like this, we don't discuss it. So everybody runs his business as he knows it. He doesn't see the importance. I see today, for me, it's a gamble. I set up a business thinking, I have an uncle in NNPC, or sorry to mention, or one organization, he will sustain my business. We have a cultural issue as legal practitioners. We actually don't see ourselves as businesses. That's the truth. That's really the issue. I see people talk of vocation and all that, but it's cultural for me. And I think that culture, we need to gradually change it. Lawyers know that we're supposed to file annual returns every year, even as a sole proprietor. People don't do that. People don't have management accounts. So we need to change that culture and mindset. Some are still of the notion that a lawyer should even go to a client's office. All those are issues that for me, it's cultural. And once we understand that we are running a business and these are essential, I think we'll move ahead in that line. Legal strategy. Is there anything in life you don't need a strategy for? I tell people, even you sit down today, you want to pick the university you go to, you will say, why now? This faculty offers this does not offer that. And you need a strategy because you're in competition, whether we like it or not. We churn out 5,000 to 6,000 lawyers every day. Some argue that we're not too many lawyers in Nigeria. I take a different view. It's not an issue of numbers. It can be 200 million people, but 70 million plus Nigerians live on under $2 a day. What is the economic activity that all of us, including the 6,000 people who will be called to buy this year, what economic activities are waiting for them? So you need strategy where there's competition. And why does all this really matter? I think it still comes back down to the same, because at the end of the day, it matters in line with your objective. What was your objective for setting up this thing? If you intend to achieve it, except you have no objective that you're practicing law because you want to be a dandy or it seems fashionable, but it really matters at the end of the day, because this is what will set you apart from the other lawyer. Every day, that's what I strive to do. Let's not kid ourselves. Even me, you're in competition with me now. So I want to set myself apart from you. And so I must constantly sit down and come up with a plan. And if I want to be selfish, I'm happy if my colleagues don't buy into this, they don't listen, they don't want to know, because every day, those who do it will continue to do. And And I'll be truthful with you. Those who do quite well in our industry, they're not always very willing to come and share the knowledge they have. So you need to start thinking of this critically.
Quite true. Okay, so Tony, happily there have been more questions that have rolled in while you were speaking. Some I've gone through some of them, and some you can answer in a line or two. So I'll just read them out loud, maybe in batches, so that you can deal with them. So one says, can you work in a law firm and have your own at the same time? I suppose this raises ethical issues. Can you work in a law firm and have yours at the same time? The next one, any pointers for where we can get a business plan to use as a guide? Any pointers as to where we can get a business plan to use as a guide? Next one, how can lawyers access finance from banks to start law offices? I'll pause here while you quickly deal with these ones before I go into the next batch.
Okay, so you said, well, for me, I think the issue of whether you can work at the same time, apart from the ethical issue, I think it's an issue of contract. So if your employer, for me, if your employer says, look, you can work with me between so hours and so hours, yes. But if you have a contract that says you will be dedicated solely towards working in this organization, I think it will be largely determined by your contractual terms. Point out to where you can get a business plan. The truth is that there are so many places, and truthfully, the internet does a lot of wonders for people. There are books to read on this. For me, a lot of times what I do sometimes read business books, but there are books to read. Today, there are so many webinars on this issue, but we need to really be deliberate about it. And the truth, I can give you a big secret. Your friends in the bank can give you if they're honest. Their business plans, hundreds and thousands of them line in their vaults every day because people are always asking for credit facilities. That's a huge area where you can also get business plans from. And you can also go to business schools, that's the truth. You can also actually go and learn it. Access to finance for banks. The truth is that banks always want to see history. In Nigeria, unfortunately, what they want to see is a history of performance. So what I always tell people, before you go to a bank, try and establish some form of consistency in somewhere, in something you're doing. That's why a lot of times you see that banks have a policy of asking for your equity contribution. A lot of banks will not even finance a startup because they want to see that you've already started doing something in which you've garnered some form of experience. It's a difficult thing to do, but access to finance is still tied to business plan. A lot of people actually don't get access to finance because you cannot come up with a business plan or what we call a feasibility. And even I sitting down, my little time in the bank, I could sit down and look at somebody's proposal and know that the bank would not give you because it's not the fine language you use, but for me, the fact that you've thought of the risks, issues like the risks, you've thought of your cash flow for the next 6 months, to the minutest thing that even the other person had not thought of. And the truth is, if you have a passion about something, you really need to go and think about it. If you want to set up a law firm, you must think about all the little things that are likely to form a risk, where your income is likely to come from, and your projections using real life indices.
Okay, so
I hope I was helpful there.
I think so. Let's move on to the next batch of questions. So here's another one. How do you deal with Gen Zs in your firm? The Gen Z generation, I believe that's what he's referring to.
The truth is the first thing, should I tell you the truth? The first thing
you are not a member. You are not a member of that team, Tony.
I am not. I'm probably a Gen maybe D. I'm near a dinosaur than the Gen Z. So
wherever you are, I am too.
But the truth is that the first thing is to listen to them. Whether we like it or not, they are the future. Funny enough, it's a conversation I was still having yesterday. And regarding this profession, you can say all what you want, but the truth is that you must have a conversation and understand where they are coming from. For me, I found out that they can be also quite helpful. They are the ones who leverage on technology the best. They give you insights that a lot of times we don't have. And they are part of the burgeoning market that is being established every day in this country. So I think it's really to listen to them and constantly have conversations with them.
Okay.
We both need to be respectful to each other, but I think that I don't see it too difficult. I initially used to find it a bit confusing, but I've realized that conversations and having an open door policy helps a lot.
Okay, perfect. Now, moving on because of time. So I'll take the next three together. So the next question is, as lawyers, forgive me, the tenses are a bit screwed up. As lawyers, how possible is it to advertise our expertise without offending the RPC in this tech world? I guess what this person is trying to find out is if there's a balance in how we can advertise without offending the RPC. Next one is, as a law firm, is it against the RPC to have a business development consultant? My firm is thinking of having one. In response, I will say, from what Tony has said, please grab that business development consultant and engage his or her services immediately. It doesn't offend the RPC in any way. I can answer that categorically on behalf of Tony.
Thank you.
Then the next one, how do you manage your partner and avoid disputes that may arise in terms of how to deal with money and who gets what? Tony, I will leave this in your able hands. There's still more questions, but I'll pause at this stage.
Thank you. The first thing is, I think, is to have rules. It's anything in life where you don't have rules, you leave it to conjecture. The first thing is to have rules about money. Now, rules are part. So I expect that you should have policies and rules about issues about expenditure, who needs to sign and who doesn't need to sign. But you must sit down and have that conversation at the point you start. At that point, you're likely to know whether you can work with that person or not. If you sit down and say, look, these are going to be our policies. Oh, you as probably managing partner, you have this limit. These are how we're going to operate. Essential that's there. But secondly, integrity is key. If you have rules and you're working with people who don't have integrity, that is an issue. Integrity is the fact that I'm abroad sometimes for 6 weeks. The office must run. I'm not afraid about my partner's going to sign up for the money in the firm and run off. I know for a fact that we have a common interest. And as long as you have a common goal, you see that issue about the objective of signing up the firm. I think we all understand here, my partners in this business, that the law firm is our second business. If we're not talking about our families, we know where we find each other. It has to be something about this business. If my partner is even somewhere tells me, we're doing something today, the first time I'm asking him, I'm thinking about how he's projecting the firm. So trust is integral, but you must have rules. And if you have a properly structured partnership, it's not only partnership, but rules that you will have for yourself. I don't really see anything, but integrity must underpin all of this.
Very well. Thank you so very much. So next question is, how does a sole proprietor distinguish personal funds from office funds? It's always it's a bloodline. Again, forgive me, the way and manner in which it is written is a bit awkward. So that's one question. Next question. Good day, sir. Recall sometimes back, Union Bank advertised calling for litigation briefs. Sir, in the future, do you think legal units of banks or similar organizations may finally venture into performing legal advisory functions for the public? This is a very interesting one from Jude Ene, and it speaks to a point which you raised, Tony, about the future of the legal profession. Perhaps you might want to dive into that while I collate the next set of questions.
Thank you. So somewhere I think you were mentioning separate and the sole proprietor personal funds from the firm. Apart from the fact that our rules of professional ethics require us to do that, the truth is this. Typically, I'll use myself as an example. I started off as the firm today we call the locker with several partners and several layers. I started as a sole proprietor. But like I said, from day one, I put myself on a salary. I had a firm account and my account separately. And the truth is this. Let's be honest, you might have a situation where you're looking at your firm's business to run, once in a while, you want to do additional things for yourself. even if you take the funds, like any other business, it should be a loan. But I don't encourage it, that's the truth. Because for me, it means you must work your life around that income. And most times, it actually propels you to actually go and get work and push your business. If you're on a salary, because you know, like any other employee, you want an increment in your salary. So simply run a separate firm account, pay yourself a salary. Even if you want allowances and other perks, document them and have them and ensure you work by it. That's the only way. And I tell people, just to quickly go to something. You see, the issue about sole proprietorship, I tell people, the mistake a lot of them make, compliance and regulations, and I used to see when I was a sole proprietor, is that when you don't do them when you're small, you're hoping to be big. The day you have the opportunity and it lands on your feet, you're now scrambling to ensure you've done all those things you do for them. Oh, I'm running to go and get my personal income tax. Oh, I'm running to go and ensure I've done my pension. Oh, I'm going to do my annual returns. And for that simple purpose, in the early days, I used to do a lot of works that my colleagues should be doing, because when they make bids for expression requests for proposals, all the requirements you need to have in place, you don't have them. And then you come to me to go and help you do them. So it's critical. The union bank issue is there. Talking about doing legal, and that's like Kunle said, why we must constantly think about the future of this profession. What are the risks? What do we need to do? I think this is a question for the bar itself, and all of us as lawyers to think about. But I think it's critical that we continually bring these issues to the notice of the bar and hope that the bar will tackle these on our behalf. But it's a risk. We've seen the Big Four always trying to encroach. That will always be there. Is there a question I missed out again?
No, I don't think so, but there are more. So let us quickly move on. We are fast running out of time. So I'll just need your sharp take on the following. How can I scale up my practice in an area where I relatively enjoy monopoly without subjecting my firm to competition that can consume our young practice? This is from Samuel Dare. He wants to know how he can scale up his practice in an area where he enjoys monopoly. That's good to know. So that's one. Next one is, do grades matter in recruitment of today's lawyers? Shouldn't it be about their skills and the value they bring to the law firm or partnership? I'll take one more, then I'll hand over to you, Tony. On the issue of billing and fee structure, the 1/3 to compensation, 1/3 to overhead, and 1/3 to profit. Is this division based on what you have charged, or will determine the amount you charge?
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
How can I scale up? How can you scale up your practice when you have a monopoly? Well,
Yes.
if you tell me you have a monopoly, I want to believe you're scaling it up day to day. If you tell me you have a monopoly, it means you're the only scale in place. But definitely, scaling day to day is doing what you do day to day. I think people always think it's something extraordinary. It's doing the right things all the time. Exceptional service, delivery on time, integrity, quality of work, day in, day out. Because marketing is twofold, essentially. Pushing yourself out there and your existing clients telling others. And the truth is, you will have competition. Forget about it. In the old days, nobody wanted to do employment law when we were doing it. But now when they talk about employment law, everybody's in the space. The idea is make sure your work speaks for you, constantly speaks for you. The leaders in IP in this country, everybody that claims they do IP today, but if your work is exceptional, you'll continue to scale because your clients and people in your existing clients move to other organizations, build new businesses, and they take you along. So maintain quality and you continue to scale up. Do grades matter? Yes and no, I would say. Unfortunately today, because of the large number of lawyers we have, truthfully, it's not that I would say that not everybody with a better grade than the next person is a better lawyer than the next person. But it's just an easier way for people. If somebody has 3,000 applications for 4 posts and he needs to shortlist, that is what they do. But the truth is, I've had people walk up to me and sit with me in an innocuous place like a bar and discuss legal issues with me. And that will compel me to want to take a conversation further with you. So I would say yes and no. If you can get the good grade, get it, especially in today's world. But I don't think it's the only determining factor. Philip, I need to update me. Okay, somebody mentioned those, the three.
Yes, the one-third demarcation of income.
I think what it simply means is that once you look at your cost, your fee and your cost structure and do the computation, they should match. If at the end of the day you check your cost structure and this is how much I've earned from my associate, divide them from all my earnings from my associate. 1/3 of it, what did he do? Is it on their salary? Did 1/3 cover the cost of running this business? Then do I have 1/3 as profit? If I aggregate all the income they've generated, that's my understanding of it.
Very well. Okay, let us move on because again, like I said, we are fast running out of time. What is your opinion on running a virtual law firm? Do you think a lawyer will be taken seriously only when they have a physical workspace? The next one, that's from Emma Indio. Next one, how do you navigate marketing, which you discussed, with the rule against advertisement, which discourages legal practitioners from advertisement? Thank you. Next one, can restrictive covenants on non-compete agreement prevent a partner from leaving a firm? That's an interesting one. Then, what is the best strategy to recover fees from clients? Well, that's it. That's also. So, Tony, please, if you could quickly deal with those ones.
Okay, let me take the one that I think running a virtual law firm, like I said previously, a lot of things, your market, the clients should determine your business. And let us forget that all the time. We work without remembering that at the end of the day, we are working for people who will pay us. Now, that's why I say, for example, technology, you can't sit down and tell me in today's world, oh, technology, I will never adapt. If you can run a virtual law firm, if the preponderance of your clients are people who can work with somebody who will deliver services to them virtually. There are clients I've worked with for the last 3 years I don't see. We have foreign clients I've never ever seen. I can tell you that. I have some in Dubai I've never seen. I saw one only last year after about 2 years ago after about 6 years. So the nature of your business and your clients will determine whether you can work virtually. I think we're getting to a stage where some would be able to do that, but like I say, your market determines whether that would work. I think I hear a lot about marketing and advertisement, and I think we overflog that. We overflog that issue. I'll give you a typical example. I think one time in my office, there was a judgment we got at the National Industrial Court, and we did analysis on one social media platform, and there was a lot. My staff actually drew my attention to it, and I said, we are stuck in the old culture, and that's the bane of this profession. I think with the ingenious ways you can advertise your business or win work without advertising outright. And I don't see anything wrong if you obtain a judgment and you analyze the judgment on a public forum. We buy law reports, they are akin to the same thing. Why would I pay money to read another person's analysis of a case and I'll have inhibitions about analyzing my own that I did? So I think it's a cultural thing. Truthfully, how many people have you had actually docked today for flouting those rules? But I'll say, do not go out, do not advertise outrightly, but find ingenious ways to push yourself out there.
Okay.
Somebody mentioned non-compete law.
Yes, restrictive covenants or non-compete agreement. Can it prevent a partner from leaving a law firm?
I think under the law you will need to look at the circumstances, but I think that would be very difficult. I think that would be difficult for in our profession, off the top of my head.
Okay, fair enough. What is the best strategy to recover fees from clients?
Well, ultimately they don't pay you to sue, but but the truth, I think, ensuring that you collect your fees starts from when you get the instruction. And I tell people that's really the problem. If you're laissez-faire in terms of engagement, clients will take that attitude with you. You're the kind of person you always take instructions verbally. Your client already knows that's the kind of relationship he has with you. I say a lot of times, your ability to put structures in place ensures you're paid. I'll give you typical examples. the organization will run from, we say, we as a firm, this is our policy for payment. And they tell us, oh no, we have a 30-day payment cycle or a 45-day payment cycle decline. But the fact that I already told you that I have a 14-day payment cycle lets you know subconsciously that your 30 days or 45 days should be 30 or 45 days. So that is a recurring problem. Part of the solutions I've also found is also having relationship with people who have a say where payment is going to be made in the organization. That's some of the homework you need to do as a business owner. Who has the critical say in that organization? Is it the CEO? Is it the finance head? Is it even the lawyer? The organizations where the general counsel can't even raise a finger when it comes to your fees. So you need to understand the organization in question and understand ways of getting back. But I know that building relationships with them is critical. They remember their friends first when they want to pay people they are owing.
Of course. Okay, so moving on, the next set of questions, how do you quantify the value of work, particularly where it can't be determined on the face of it? For example, drafting a policy document that may result in the passage of a law. That's one. Tokunbo Ogundipe says, how effectively can digitization be applied to law office processes? Wow, I think this is pretty obvious. Can you recommend a moderately priced document management system? Again, forgive me, it's just the way it is written. Last but not the least for this round, how do you strategize with respect to clients who shy away from paying professional fees for services rendered? Will you return their files or keep doing the work with the hope that they will pay eventually? So that's from Nkechi Linda Ekaito.
Yeah. Let me take the last question because I can't remember about that one, at least off the top of my head. You engage clients, returning file is the last option, but the truth is that there are certain instances where I have been compelled at the end of the day to return it. The truth is this, it's not all about just paying you, it's about whether the client values your work. Sometimes they are interspersed. What am I trying to say? Sometimes a client might not pay you. It's a function of their financial situation. But some clients don't pay you because they don't value legal services. For a client that does not value legal services, I'll give you a bit of time and ultimately I could give you back your file because I know that that's a culture that I can't do anything about. It has nothing to do with your finances, but it has to do with the kind of person or organization you are. So look at the kind of organization they are, check the reasoning in determining it. But as an institution, we've sat down, and I'll tell you, it's even a financial institution looked and said, these guys don't pay. They want to give you instruction. They don't want to give you the terms. They tell you to go and do the work. Further down the line, you never know what your fees are going to be, and to pay you, it's a problem. So the nature of the client and the reasoning behind the delay in payment should help you decide how you go about it. Somebody spoke about quantifying value of work for certain things. I think that's a tough one. I mean, how much can you truly pay a lawyer? That it might sound cliche, but that's the fact. But I think for certain kind of work, the fact that there are very few people with the knowledge or skill would actually let you know that to pay for that service would not come cheap. Today in Nigeria, I don't know how many people do space law, for example, but the idea is that certain areas of law and the required expertise and the fact that there's a depth of expertise in itself would give you an advantage in pricing it. Just like if you don't have enough neurosurgeons or people to do certain kind of medical procedures, of course they will charge an arm and a leg. But apart from that, a lot of times when we cannot actually put the value for work in real terms, we will charge by the hour for the service. That's really what we do.
Okay, there was a question here. How effectively can digitization be applied to law office processes? Can you recommend a moderately priced document management system? Don't know if you can do that, Tony.
Digitization, I'll be shocked if you're operating today without digitization. In fact, that is where the profession is today. And anybody without it is likely to struggle. Recommending a system, I can't tell you a moderately priced one because it's, what's the word? It might be subjective. But off the line, I can link you with my practice manager. She might have a conversation with you and help out like that.
Let's move on very quickly. There's a question here. Is it lawful to market our profession? I mean, our expertise to business holder for retainership? I think we've answered this in several other guises. The straightforward answer is yes. Mr. Oluwasegun Loyimi, the straightforward answer is yes. Next one from Sunday Kenechukwagu. What is your view on having a friend or family member fund your starting of a law firm? That's then from Mr. Peter Doba. This series has been impactful since its beginning, and the resource persons have been wonderful so far. By way of a suggestion, I will suggest that the organizers compile and send records. Yes, I believe that will be done. I'm afraid because of time, so I have to just quickly run through them. Please, he has not addressed the question on advertising, giving Google opportunities for adverts. I think we have addressed this, but Tony, you may have one or two things to say to Noel Brown. Next one, we registered a law firm as a business name, but all the partners have moved on, and I am the only one left driving the firm. I want to get partners and scale up to LLP to meet the current needs of the clients as I risk losing our big client. Please advise me.
That's a big one. I would have asked why your partners left, because that's a question everybody will want to know. Because sometimes it's not only a function of your work, but a function of your organization and the structure and the workings behind. So I really don't know that, but the truth is, if you want to go and get partners, you have to have something you're offering and you're bringing to the table. What will really attract you to other potential partners? That's what you need to look at. And then you need to really look at why your other partners left. But that's really what I can tell you quickly.
Okay.
Kunle, can you help me with any other question again? I need to.
Yes. So there's one where we've talked about advertising.
Obviously, you can't advertise. That's clear. I mean, our rules are clear on that. But
there was one here about having a friend or family. I think you have addressed that.
There's not having your friend or family sponsoring you. I gave you an example that even my own brother supported me for when I wanted to start up. There's no harm there. I mean, that is goodwill.
Okay, so there's also a question here that says, can a lawyer do MBA and LLM? And I say straightforward to Ikenna Onyeke, please go for it.
Why not?
Then there's still on this advertising issue, and it's interesting that it keeps on recurring again and again. Is it okay to advertise for partners? Well, that's a different twist to it. Tony, you might want to look at that. There's a next one. Great presentation from Sunday, Anthony.
I see no harm in advertising for partners. I see no, but I wouldn't do it, but I see no harm in it. I don't see nothing legally stopping.
Very well. In circumstances of the restrictions in the LPA and RPC, is it not necessary for the NBA to initiate amendment to enable law practice in Nigeria be run as a going business concern in modern times? S.A. Egbo from Enugu, kindly guide us in respect of tax payment, especially on VAT, when the practice is yet growing up. From Ibrahim Yusuf, how do you charge by the hour, please? How much per hour? Tony, you have to let out your business secrets, obviously. So let me just quickly run through. Should I return the client's file when the client hasn't paid? Sir, advertising is allowed under the RPC. Lawyers really need to understand this and stop making it look like you cannot advertise. That's from Sunday Kenechukwagu again. Still on this advertising matter, Emma Indio says, I believe you may advertise but not solicit. So there you have it, Tony. There is still a few, some are comments, but some are questions. How do you charge by the hour, please? How much per hour? Kindly guide us in respect to VAT when your practice is still growing. So yes, those are
VAT is a matter of law. It has nothing to do with the size of your practice. That money is not your money. It belongs to government. So you have your fees, and the VAT is a tax charged on that fee, on that fee. So it really has nothing to do with your money, and I see it has nothing to do with your size. And like I said, for a lot of sole practitioners intending to become big practices, that is the biggest issue they have eventually, because tomorrow when you're now making, you're asked to submit a request for proposal and expression of interest to a multinational, the first thing they ask is for your VAT certificate or returns for the last few years, and you have nothing to show for it. So I learned that very early. I did all those in the early days, as painful as it was. But if you know where you're heading to, you will do all those. So that shouldn't be an issue. It's not coming from your pocket. Your fees are there, and you should charge it. Which other one again? I'm lost here. You might need to help me again. The question that comes up.
Yes. So the last one is, how do you charge by the hour, please? How much per hour?
Like I said, the charge for me, the objective thing is to analyze your business. What is the cost of running your business? The charge, the amount you charge per hour should be determined, like I said, 1/3 should go to your staff costs. 1/3 should go to your general overheads. 1/3 should be profit. So for example, if you do 1 million as your cost for a year, or let me use so that I come into 3 equal fractions, 1.2 million, right? It means 400,000 of that money should have gone to your compensation for employees. 400,000 should have gone to your general overheads. 400,000 per profit. If you divide this by a number of employees, you will know how much you should charge per hour as a serious business. That's the truth. You should know how much you should charge per hour. That's the truth.
Thank you very much. I would also add that if you are intending to charge by the hour, also be guided by what is reasonable and competitive amongst your peers of your level of experience and who are operating in that particular line of business.
Market.
Yes.
You could have said it better. You could have said it better.
Thank you so very much. Now, Tony, perhaps you may have 1 or 2 last words that you want to share with the audience. It's been a very interesting session, obviously. Just something to tie up all that you have told us this afternoon. We've had well over 600 people in attendance, and by and large, the audience has kept faith with us, which is, I think, an indication of just how touching and relevant the topic at hand is. I can assure you that in conjunction with the MBA, the slides that were used for this presentation will be sent out. But Tony, please, perhaps you have a last word before we round up finally.
Yes, thank you. Like I said when I started, I think the idea is that lawyers will need to step back when the issues of finance and business come into play. We should not look at them as a big masquerade in one corner that needs specialists. The issue is this: we must embrace 1, finance, 2, technology. You cannot run business today without them. And that's why a lot of people are still lagging behind. So let us go back and in our consciousness, constantly evaluate what is structure all about. Structure is saying, okay, this is the platform with which I want to use to execute this. That's why you see businesses sit down every day and they talk about strategy sessions. The Guinness started with 1 man. There are law firms in the world with 11,000 people run like major corporations. And we can do it here. But the biggest issue with us as well, and I will say it unabashedly, is our culture. I say it all the time. We're too stuck in that mode. We don't, even the issue of advertising, when I say it's, when you think about it, it could have worked then, but today, everybody else in the business space and in the same economy we're struggling for is advertising. And that's why when we talk about business today, we say, oh, the estate agents are getting a better something that, because estate agents, every day the newspapers, they are doing their stuff. Everybody else is doing it. But we keep saying we are the noble profession, we are all those notions that in today's world yield no value. So I think you must start that culture and see yourself like the CEO of any serious corporation. If you see yourself in that mode, I can assure you, you would ask the right questions, be in the right place, and do the right things and put the right structures that will elevate and scale up your business day to day. Those are the things I have to say. And thank you once more for the opportunity and time, Kunle. I had a great time.
Thank you so very much, Tony. I am happy to convey the gratitude of all our colleagues who have been in attendance and those who have not for this wonderful session. We have benefited immensely from your wisdom and your experience, and I'm confident that next time when the need arises, you will continue to share with us. Thank you to everybody who has participated in this event. There will be further correspondence to you. I hope that your email addresses are available. The slides will be shared in due course, and there will be further notifications too of subsequent webinars on these kinds of topics and many others. As we depart, thank you so very much and all the very best.
Thank you, colleague.
Thank you.